Hey son, and welcome to Rauta's Metal Reviews. This time we go to Denmark, at least figuratively, with this band Iotunn, which is another way to say Jotun, which is then again giant in Norse mythology. So, a giant from Denmark. Now, while Denmark might not be the biggest country in metal, I mean, after all, Lars Ulrich went to United States with Metallica, and King Diamond hasn't really been in Danish soil for that much. There are other good things besides pølsen or hot dogs in Danish territory than just the names mentioned. And one of those more promising newer bands is this one, Iotunn. And now it's time for the second album. It's kind of curious that this band has been able to climb up quite high, meaning quite a lot of audience already. In less than 10 years, 2 albums now out. Technically speaking, this is out on 25th of October 2024 through Metal Blade Records. And this comes with a nice looking, I would even say beautiful digipack packaging, and with an extensive booklet filled with nice images, which I'm trying to show you here. But the music is quite something different. Now, when I was listening to this digital promo, I wasn't sure whether or not I would really go for this one in terms of review and all, because it goes a little bit off the road in terms of extreme metal and all, which is the thing what I usually listen to and feature on the channel. It's not like I'm aggressive. I was about to say allergic about the other genres in question, but it's just like, we all listen to what we prefer. And when I mostly go for death metal and black metal and thrash metal, things like this can go off the radar way too easily. Then luckily a certain skilled PR representative told me, like, maybe you should give it a proper go. Maybe you should review it. And I was like, okay, I'll give it a chance. And man, this was actually good. And now with a few more spins, I would say it's quite a potential grower. I gave these 4 spins, which in my opinion will be enough for this particular review. I don't think another 10 would really change things too much, given my understanding, or what is my supposed understanding of metal. After all, this is 68 minutes of metal. And when you spend enough time on a given album, it doesn't matter if it's 10 times, but more in the terms of minutes or hours being spent, I think I can say my opinion about it with this take. So let's open up a Metal Archive site on the background to feature this one while I guide you through. So here on Metal Archive site it says progressive power metal early. This is something that I haven't heard. I'm really getting my virgin trip with this particular album. And now it says progressive melodic death metal later. It seems like extensive use of various words, adjectives and whatnot, nouns, to explain what the music is all about. I would say it's pretty accurate though, especially the later part describing this second album, Kinship, 3 years after the debut album of Access All Worlds. And mind you, this is only a 9 years old band, so not that experienced with this particular type of music. However, this doesn't mean that the members don't have any other projects before. Not that much listed, but here it goes. And one thing what is worth mentioning is that when I was listening to this, I figured out this vocalist, he sounds familiar. And then it clicked me when I was searching for, the links and all for my review. Jon Aldara is of course known for Hammerth and Barren Earth, so that's like, of course, that's why it sounds so familiar. His style is very skilled, kind of epic doom or heavy metal vocalist, sometimes overextending in my opinion. Takes a little bit time to get used to it, and I understand why some people are like, okay, I could like the music, but the vocalist is like a little bit too much. For me it works better in this context than with Barren Earth or Hammerth, but that is partially, maybe even more so, big time because of the music, which I wouldn't really call progressive melodic death metal. I would say death metal, because let's be honest about it, while there are death metal growl parts, far and few, and the same goes for the more black metallic shrieky type of vocals, there are some, but just so little that doesn't really make much of a difference. Mostly this goes with the talented, skilled, clean vocals, and as such, just progressive metal would be enough. Does it really have to be emphasized that they're melodies? Not really. I mean, it comes by a part of the genre. Going melodic death metal with progressive is just like over-explaining things where we can just simplify and say it's progressive metal, even if with tiny amount of death metal, black metal in the twist. But this is nothing more than a seasoning. Let's be honest about it. And as such, I can, for example, recommend this particular album to someone who isn't that much into the extreme metal because of the vocals and other things. But there are things which remind us of the death metal thing going on. For example, there are lots of parts where it just goes really fast. I'm talking about kind of a blast beat kind of a thing. And these things might really like put you into the world of death metal thing. But like I said, I would still say it's more of a seasoning because the vocals dominate here so much. So in my opinion, this rather sounds progressive heavy metal rather than progressive death metal, even with the growly seasoning or whatever faster parts. But this is just nitpicking about genres, which is not something that I enjoy too much. I'm just mentioning these briefly because I need you to understand that this album is more complex than what it is if you just describe it with a couple of words. So, enter the world of progressive metal. It doesn't really come, as a surprise element that there are songs which are extensively long. I mean, already the opening track, almost 14 minutes. Come on. Now, for a lot of bands, I would say, get the fuck out of here. 14 minutes with a song is way too much. Listen to any of the Metallica albums since the Black Album and you know what I mean. You don't really need 9 minutes to explain what's going on because most of the time it's just time wasted. Focus and make shorter tracks. Keep just enough repetition. Don't have tens and tens or dozens and dozens of riffs to, make one song. But somehow these guys make it work. I consider it some level of a miracle really because most songs which go, I wouldn't really put 1 minute marker here, but I use this as an example. Most bands that go beyond 7 minutes, it can be less, but let's just say 7, is just too much. There are so many bands which have the, what we could call epic disease, the thing of like, hey, I have to do this 15 or 11 minute song. And everybody's like, no, you don't. You just put it in 3 different songs. Use those riffs and melodies in a way that it would, more compact and more focused. But these guys make it work. So I will forgive them that it doesn't really matter if they have these extensively lengthy songs. There are a couple of shorter ones, but can you really call 6-minute song short one? I mean, we're not talking about the hard rocks 3 minutes in and out. Anyhow, this is working for the favor of the epic feeling here. Another point worth noting is that this album lasts for almost 70 minutes. Yes, you heard me right. And this is when I start to miss albums like Rain in Blood. Less than 30 minutes and you're like, whoa, wonderful, perfection. You don't need to do 70 minutes of music. But somehow, once again, these guys are kind of like making the perfect excuses for that. My point here is, the songwriting is indeed quite good. And for me, this album is more about atmosphere than individual riffs, which is not necessarily a compliment. It reminds me of the things that it depends which corner you're coming from. If you're one for the mood and atmosphere, then it doesn't matter if you have 20 tracks in a 5-minute song and you don't really catch a single riff or melody or vocal point or chorus parts. You just can go on like, okay, this is like, synthwave album, a dance synth album, an ambient album, a soundtrack album. You don't give a shit about certain themes or melodies or riffs. You just go with the atmosphere. And you're like, cool. Put your headphones on and like, that stupid smile and enjoy. And the rest of the people are like, what the fuck is that guy doing? Enjoy music, of course. I come from the world where single riffs are more important than the full atmosphere. However, albums like this are like the exceptions where I like, okay, I have to admit, this album actually works nicely. The production is somewhat of a perfection. It's really strong, supports the music here very, very well. And the vocal parts, which I mentioned, very talented and very skilled. I get it. Sometimes it's just like going overboard with the extensive use of vocals and like going so, I don't know, places. A little bit too much in my opinion. It's almost like you're sailing a ship and sometimes you kind of climb up on a railing and then you keep going and then you fall off the ship and you're like, did you really have to pull that stunt off? Okay, we'll save you. But somehow it's quite manageable. But this comes to a matter of taste really. I personally prefer the more sophisticated type of use of vocals, especially with this kind of music when we're talking about still progressive metal. And I would say the Evergrey style, which is more sophisticated, a little bit, I don't know, not laid back is the right word, but not also or extending so much. But comes and goes with the matter of taste. Mileage may vary and all. Overall, I would say Kinship is a strong album. It's not maybe the album of the year material because it's extensive lengths of given songs and not so memorable parts. Not for me anyway, with the chorus and melodies and all that stuff. It kind of has the same thing, or not the same, but similar thing as the latest Nightwish album, which is just like layers on layers and layers and lots of things happening, epic and whatnot. This is just way less orchestrated. Obviously. Doesn't feature female vocals, obviously. But kind of pushes the same buttons. You go for lengthy pieces with lots of layers, lots of things happening and strong production, great vocals and all. So, maybe more in common than not. But what do I know? I know nothing. So you need to figure out whether this is your cup of tea. I'm not gonna say it's for everybody because it's not. It's definitely not. But those who are ready to take a ride into the world of progressive metal, with death metal and black metal vocals included or not, now this is your chance. This album is out indeed 25th of October 2024 and I wish you a pleasant ride. It's worth your time. At least give it a few songs worth time before, judging the whole album, because it may take some time to figure it out, the extensive length and all. But for me, the 68 minutes of an album is a good one and that should be worth something. If not, well, too bad. Off you go, enjoy.